Are you making the conscious decision to move within this area? Well, if you're deciding to choose within Tacoma, Washington, it is very, very important for you to pay attention because you may end up in a hellhole, literally. These are the 5 worst suburbs that you can choose if you're going to decide to live within this area. So you're going to pay very close attention because you're going to want to get all of this information to decide if this is something that you're willing to risk. My name is George Rodriguez with eXp Realty, and allow me a few moments a day to be a realtor. Now that I'm done playing with your emotions, let's get right into it because we want this information quick. The first location that I want to speak of in terms of suburbs is going to be Lakewood, Washington. In terms of the real estate in this area, the median sale price is going to be sitting at $538,475, with the average day on market sitting at 7 days. Now, of course, the cost of real estate is going to change dramatically when you are living within Lakewood. The closer you are to the freeway or South Tacoma Way, the cheaper the properties are going to be, and of course, the more dramatic in terms of crime that you're going to be facing. And closer you go to the water, the better type of properties you're going to have, and the property values will explode tremendously. As you go down certain portions, you're going to be just honestly bombarded with gated communities and also gated properties to actually isolate themselves on some of the issues that comes with living within Lakewood, Washington. So I was speaking about the crime that you do face as a Lakewood resident, so let's just see what you could be facing if you are living within this area. So let's go ahead and scroll down. In terms of the Lakewood crime data, the total crime index ranked out of 100, this is 2, meaning this is safer than 2% of the US neighborhoods in the entire country. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the total crimes that they're facing is going to be. 3,465, with a crime rate per 1,000 residents sitting at 54.71. So let's dumb it down, out of every 1,000 people, 54.71 will be facing some type of crime. Now, looking overall in terms of the per 1,000 residents, 7.31 in comparison to Washington, 3.36. So you're going to be double the chances in terms of facing some crime within your area by living in this section. Now, right here, 1 in 137 in terms of being a victim of the violent crime section, and then 1 in 298 in comparison to Washington. So again, you're going to have double the chances. I don't mean to scare you, but double the chance to be facing some type of violent crime if you're going to be living within Lakewood, Washington. Now, in terms of property crime, 47.4 in comparison to 31.34 per 1,000 residents. Now, overall, in terms of, I want to use this to scare you off by any means, but in terms of Pierce and King County, these numbers are going to be a lot higher in comparison than what the rest of Washington state faces. In terms of employment, if you're going to be looking for a job within Lakewood, you're going to have a lot of options. You're going to have factory, retail, as well as a ton of state jobs to offer you employment if you're living within this area. Living within Lakewood gives you the opportunity to have a great commute, not only if you're going to be living close to Joint Base Lewis McChord, and then you also have the bonus of having beautiful real estate closer to the water if you're going to be living within that way. Just remember, the closer you are to South Tacoma Way and the freeway, the more likely you're going to have to deal with the ruckus of what can happen by living within Lakewood, Washington. The next worst suburb is going to be Fife, Washington. The reason why this is coming up in the list is because this can be a very small community that doesn't offer you a lot of options if you're going to be choosing to actually work or live within this area. If you're going to be looking for employment located within Fife, Washington, you're not going to have a lot of options. You're going to have some retail. You're of course going to have Emerald Creek Casino, but you're going to have a lot of logistics and truck jobs if that's going to be your demographic, because there is a ton of warehouses located within this area because this is going to be close to the port of Tacoma. This can be a pro or con if you're looking for more diversity in terms of your commute to your employment. When it does come to the real estate within this area, it doesn't give you much options to choose from because there isn't much real estate available within this area. Most of the real estate is going to be located close to Puyallup, right off River Road, and most of the communities within here are going to be the HOA type cookie cutter properties that don't offer you much of the yard space, and you're able to touch the property next to you. But of course, that isn't such a con for some people, but for those that are looking for a bigger type of property lot, there's not going to be a lot of options for you here in this area. The average median sale price for a property in Fife, Washington is going to be sitting at $516,000, with an average day on market sitting at 5 days. So you don't have much time to actually decide if you love this home because the one next to you, meaning the person next to you, is already going to be putting an offer on it. One big pro of Fife is that the school districts actually rank in the top 5 for Pierce County as one of the best here, and not only that, but also in the entirety of the state of Washington. So now let's take a look at the crime that you may be facing, as this unfortunately ranks as one of the highest in the entire state for crime in comparison to residents. But one thing I want you to pay attention to is that there's not very many residents here, so of course the numbers can be a little inflated in comparison to others. So as you scroll down, the Fife Crime data for the total crime index is 0 out of 100, meaning this is going to be one of the most dangerous places to live in the entire USA. Beautiful. So, of course, the total crime is going to be 1,466. And, of course, the crime rate per 1,000 residents is at 133.45. So, you have a 13.45% chance of actually having some crime happen to you. Now, in terms of violent crime comparison per 1,000 residents, per 1,000, you have a 17.84 in comparison to 3.36 to Washington overall, and you have a 1 in 56 chance of being a victim to violent crime in comparison to the 1 in 298. So you have basically a 25% chance. Well, let's just say 20. I'm bad at math. 20% chance in comparison to Washington State overall. It's gonna be a little something. So property crime comparison per 1,000 residents, 115.61 to 31.34 for Washington. So it can be pretty alarming in comparison if you're gonna be looking at the possibility of crime happening to you, your family, your property. Right here, you have 1 in 9 chance in comparison to a 1 in 32 for the entire state of Washington. So if you have some type of inclination of worrying about crime, this may not be the place for you, because it's going to unfortunately has an increased chance for something like this happening. One of the biggest pros of living in Fife is the commute that's possible when actually going to Seattle, because when you live in Fife, you have the ability to take the back roads to skip that little loop that goes around the Port of Tacoma and also the Tacoma Dome, because that's where a lot of the traffic on I-5 gets very backed up. So this gives you a smooth opportunity to actually be able to swoop in to actually skip a lot of that nonsense that's going to happen on I-5. The next suburb on this list is going to be Tukwila. Now, this is going to be a little bit closer to Seattle in comparison to Tacoma, so it does have that appeal of being very close to the city. But, of course, you're going to want to pay attention to this because my wife does call this a little bit ghetto. But the real estate market in this area is actually going to be sitting at $476,000 as a median sale price, and the average day on market is going to be sitting at 9 days. When it does come to your property choices, you're going to have a lot of the older style homes because there isn't a lot of new construction located within this area because there's minimal land to actually use. Your ability to choose of that new white picket fence type property or those new condos, you're not going to get a lot of it here because unfortunately there isn't enough land to actually utilize this type of area. When it does come to your employment opportunities located within Tukwila, most of these jobs will be outsourced to your surrounding locations, meaning a lot of people that live in this area will be working in Seattle, working in Renton, or working in Bellevue because of the close commute. The high desirable factor of living within this area is going to be your ability to actually commute to the city when you need and desire it, because you're going to be skipping a lot of the traffic that has to do with the exterior portion, but you're only going to be dealing with the issues when you're actually going within the city. Let's take a look at the crime rates that you'll be facing if you decide to live within Tukwila, and also what these current residents are dealing with currently. Now, I want you to pay attention to this map. When you see deep blue, that means danger. So the darker the blue, the more danger you're going to be facing. That is, of course, according to Neighborhood Scout, but let's go ahead and scroll down further to see what the statistics are saying. The total crime index is saying that this is safer than 0% of the U.S. neighborhoods, so this does follow a lot of Fife, but this has a lot more residents in comparison to what they had previously. Now, total for number of crimes, 3,491, with a crime rate sitting at 161.51. So this is the higher crime rate in comparison to Fife. As we scroll down here, you're going to have a less of a chance to be dealing with the violent crime in comparison to 7.63 in comparison to Washington at 3.36 for violent crime. So you have 1 in 31 chance in comparison to Washington's 1 in 298. Now, in terms of the property crime that you could be facing within this area, you're going to be sitting at 153.87 in comparison to 31.34 for property crime. So you have a 1 in 6 chance to deal with property crime in comparison to 1 in 32. So it's very alarming when you do see these type of numbers because there is a higher chance for crime by living in these areas that are honestly closer to Seattle. So closer to Seattle you get, possibility of more crime. Just happens to be that way. The next suburb you're going to be wanting to pay attention to is going to be Parkland. Now, of course, Parkland does definitely have its good parts, but it has its bad, meaning it's going to be very close to Tacoma, and unfortunately, Tacoma has one of the highest rates of crime in the entire state of Washington. So being just on the cusp of that, you get some of the drawbacks that it has to deal with, being on the outskirts of Tacoma. One of the big pros here of this area is going to be that they have a lot of options for real estate, meaning if you're going to have a small family to a large family, there's a lot of new construction and also homes that offer you more beds and baths, more square footage, and also more of a bigger lot size in comparison that you'll be facing in the other sections of Washington. The area that I want you to pay attention to is going to be one of the main roads that travels down Parkland. So it's going to be Pacific Ave. Now, when dealing with Pacific Avenue, you're going to have to understand that the closer you are to this area, the more possibility of crime you're going to be facing because it has more of the apartments located within it. And also, you're going to be dealing with more of these transients and the homelessness problem that's going to be located within Tacoma, passing down into Parkland. So the further you get away, the less more of an issue that you're going to be dealing with because, of course, the further you go into the, let's just say the sticks, and the less stuff you're going to be dealing with because no one wants to have that leisure of having the ability to move taken away from them. Now, for the median sell price in this area of Parkland, you're going to be sitting at $442,500 with an average day on market sitting at 6 days. In comparison to all the other places that we have taken a look at, this can be one of the cheaper areas to actually have the ability to purchase a property within if you're not going to be choosing Tacoma. Let's take a look at the crime that happens within Parkland, but of course, like I said earlier, it's mainly dictated by being on the outskirts of Tacoma. So all this blue that you see right here is basically Tacoma in general. Now, if we take a look and zoom in, this little blue dot right here is going to be Parkland. And as I said earlier, this main road right here going straight through is going to be Pacific Avenue. So the further away you are from Pacific Avenue, when you're taking a look at these little blue little dots, that is going to dictate and show you the further away you are, the less crime you're going to be dealing with. So you're going to want to keep that in your head when you're deciding to purchase real estate within this area, because the further you are away from the main roads, the less amount of nonsense you'll be having the possibility of dealing with. So as we go down, let's take a look at the total crime data. Now, this is going to be Tacoma in general. So Tacoma is going to be one of the worst in Washington state. It can be ranked 0 out of 100. They basically call it Tacompton. It's not too far off now. So total number of crimes sitting at 17,705 with the crime rate at 80.77. Now this is lower than the previous two suburbs, but there is a lot of residents that are living within Tacoma. Now 11.99 to 3.36 for violent crime comparison per 1,000. And as we go down, you see right here, to be a victim of violent crime, 1 in 83 in comparison to Washington's 1 in 298. And as we go down further, property crime, this can be one of the more dire things you'll be dealing with in Tacoma. 68.78 in comparison to 31.34 for property crime per 1,000, and you have a 1 in 15 chance in comparison to 1 in 32. So basically, you have double the chances of dealing with property crime located within this area of Tacoma. If you are going to decide to choose to live within Parkland, this is going to be a decent place to choose, but of course you need to be aware of where you are choosing to live by paying attention to that main road. The further you go away, I want you to really pay attention. The further you go away, the less nonsense you deal with, and that's going to be very important if you're going to choose to live within the suburb of Parkland. The next suburb up is going to be Eatonville. Now, of course, people like Eatonville. What's wrong with Eatonville? There's just nothing there, meaning you have nothing to really do within Eatonville in terms of amenities. Of course, if you love to live in the outdoor section and go ahead and, ride the ATVs or, just scream at the forest, that's going to be your option in Eatonville, because in terms of employment, there isn't a lot of employment opportunities located within this area. So if you're going to want a job that pays more, you're going to obviously have to go within the city, work within Tacoma, work within Seattle, or around the subsection of it if you're going to want to make more money to actually afford the cost of living in this state. Now, in terms of the median sale price that is located within this area of Eatonville, the average median sale price is sitting at $410,000, and I'm going to chuck this up as an error to Redfin. They're saying 1 day on market. That's total cap. Let's just say it's like 10-15 days, or just follows a moving average of Pierce County that's sitting at 23 days on market. Now, when it does come to the properties within Eatonville, this is going to be very desirable if you want property with a lot of land. When you choose to pick these outskirt type areas, you're going to have a lot of land that does come with your property. So if you like to be more isolated with less of the nonsense, the noise that comes with being in the city, this is going to be a good option for you, because you're going to get that amenity of having the peace and quiet and tranquility that the Pacific Northwest has the opportunity to offer you. So the quality of life is very important here, because if you are more of a city, a faster going, a fast-paced individual, and like basically diversity, you may not get that within this area. So you need to pay attention to that, because it may not fit you And chasing the property value may not be the best situation for you because your quality of life and how you want to live it may not follow what Eatonville has to offer you. You know what's next? It's going to be the crime. When we're taking a look at Eatonville, we have to pay attention to that there's not a lot of people living here, so when something bad happens, it's going to affect the moving average. So as you can see, Eatonville is located within here in the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, and it's going to be basically deep blue, meaning it's going to be dangerous. So, but I want to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. You're going to be, pretty fine if you're living in this area. Now, the total crime index in comparison, this is going to be the best one you're going to see within this video of 27 out of 100 in comparison to the total crime index. Now, number of crimes, as you've seen, 49. Isn't that a sight for sore eyes? 49 crimes. So you can see that there's not a lot of people living here, so it does affect the moving average. As we go down further, this can be closer to the average of violent crime possibilities. Of course, how dangerous that sounds. 4.2 in comparison to Washington's 3.36. Now, the chances of violent crime, 1 in 238 in comparison to Washington's 1 in 298. And as you go further down, you can see right here, the property crime is actually going to be lower than the average in terms of Washington. So if you want a safe place to have your home, it could be Eatonville, but you're going to be able to hear the echo when you scream out loud. Anyways, your property crime comparison is sitting at 12.96 to Washington's 31.34. You have a 1 in 77 chance of property crime in comparison to 1 in 32 for Washington. So if safety is something you may be looking for, this is actually pretty exemplary in terms of, the possibilities of Washington. But that's also going to show you that the further away you get from the cities, the safer you will be. To encompass all of the suburbs that we've spoken about in this video, there are pros and cons to each section that you need to weigh when you're deciding to actually choose to purchase property or to live within these areas. This is why a real estate professional or just a friend or family that lives within the area is very important, because when choosing to live in new areas, you have those intricacies that aren't really said out loud unless you find a realtor like myself with contact information down below if you're looking to buy or sell. They won't give it to you straight unless you really ask for it. Now, if you did find anything in this video at all helpful, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if I missed anything else, or a place you want me to highlight, leave that down in the comment section below so I can get to it and give you a shout out on the next video of the week. So of course, my name is George Rodriguez with eXp Realty, and you have a nice day.